You know, during all of these hurricanes, one thing has been consistent is the blatant racism that has been shown through it all. I remember during Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy here in New Jersey. I don't know if any of you are aware, they put white people up in hotels. They got 3 meals a day and everything. They didn't do that for the black residents. They didn't do that for us. But the white people that were without, their homes got soaked underwater, flooded out. They got to stay in a hotel. The hotels opened up rooms and let them all stay. They didn't do that for anybody else. And then you have the situation with Katrina, where the black people were killed on the bridge because they didn't want them on the white side of Louisiana. And I heard stories down in Florida where white people were taking up all of the shelters, and many of the black people could hardly get into a shelter. And some of the shelters were right there in the black neighborhood. And one woman gave her account, a black woman said the shelter was right there in the same town she lived in. When she went over there, the police had the whole place blocked out. All white people were in the shelter in the black neighborhood, and the people that lived in the neighborhood couldn't even get in there. So they ended up going home and riding out the storm. So we are well aware of the racism, and then you have Houston, where people were reporting boats were going by with whites, and they were yelling out racial slurs at the black people and wouldn't stop for them, wouldn't rescue them. And also, um, in Houston, they were even saying that they were trying to call for help, and they were telling them to go call on Jesus, just being nasty and flippant. So this just go to show you, black people in the islands, it happened there as well. So this tells you they have an unspoken code that they get priority over everybody else. Imagine that the people that ain't reproducing get priority over everybody else. Okay, let's get into the story. This came out on Newsweek, September 13th, 2017. Hurricane Irma evacuations prioritize white people, claim St. Martin residents. Now, this is a predominantly black island, and they got to take a back seat to these folks? Man, please. All right. The devastation of Hurricane Irma has highlighted racial tensions on the Caribbean island of St. Martin, according to some residents who claim white tourists were given priority during evacuation. Not shocking. Same thing happened in the U.S. Black and mixed race residents of the islands, where there is disparity in wealth between white and non-white people, said they had seen white tourists rescued from the Category 4 storm ahead of needy mothers and children who were not prioritized by rescuers. Boy, we get tired of this. One St. Martin resident, Johanna Sudiagam, told the Associated Press she was among a small minority of non-white people who were evacuated to Guadalupe as the hurricane hit. It was selective, excuse me, but we saw only main islanders. Sudiagam told Guadalupe 1 Hour TV, that's a way of saying, I'm sorry, only whites. There are only whites on the boat. 9 people were killed on the French part of the island following the storm, which destroyed buildings and claimed the lives of at least 37 people across the Caribbean, and a further 7 people in the U.S. In my eyes, Irma is for the French Antilles, and Hurricane Katrina was for Louisiana in the U.S. And we know about the people that got killed on the bridge in Louisiana because they didn't want them on the dry white side of the town. And exposure of racial and social inequalities, French Representative Council of Black Association spokesman Louis George Ten told the AP. The group has demanded the French government hold an inquiry into why people evacuated from St. Martin's were not necessarily the most in distress. In Florida, there were more than 1 million evacuated, and French says that with 4 days' notice, they couldn't evacuate a much smaller number, Ten said. The question must be asked, does it have to do with racism? He added. But the French government has claimed it is far more difficult to arrange evacuation from islands than it is on a mainland where people can use their own vehicles to drive to safety. At least 1,200 Americans were evacuated from St. Martin's, while some who remained on the island describing instances of looting, something also seen in Florida with a group of alleged looters arrested in Fort Lauderdale on Sunday. Areas in the Caribbean and in the U.S. affected by Hurricane Irma are now facing massive cleanup operations dealing with damage to buildings, injuries, and a price tag expected to run into billions of dollars. And it's really bad. Now there's going to be a lot of money to clean up and rebuild in Texas, Florida, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, by the way, got torn apart. So that's another place that the U.S. is going to have to shell out money to rebuild. But we know these racist incidents take place, and they throw looting in there, but there were plenty of white people out there looting too. So, y'all need to stop playing. And look, black people, we have to have our own individual plans. We already know during the time of trouble, these people are only going to look out for themselves, and the hell with everyone else. We have seen this way too many times. We can't keep acting brand new when this stuff happens. We need our own plan. We need to activate that our own plans, and to hell with everybody else. We need to start prioritizing things and putting ourselves first. Please tell me what you think. Leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family.